Welcome back everyone, it is Aric from Aric, and today we're going to be breaking down my current deck list for the brand new Vespiquen deck that Astral Radiance is going to be giving us. You know, there's not too many new single price archetypes that are worth covering in this set, but Vespiquen is definitely one of the few that caught my attention here. You have the potential to one-shot Pokemon VSTAR, and with the game trending more and more in that direction, this definitely seemed like an archetype worth checking out to see if it had any potential. And before we get any deeper into today's video, just a heads up, if you guys are in the market for some Astral Radiance cards, whether it's singles to complete decks like this or sealed product, you guys can check out our friends over at TCG Player. I've got an affiliate link with them down below in the description that you can use. And TCG Player pulls its prices from a variety of online listings to always show you the cheapest price that cards are going for at any given point. So feel free to pick up your Astral Radiance cards over there, and any purchases made do come back around and help support the channel too. But let's get into the deck list. Up first, we have 4 copies of Combee here, and Combee actually not a horrible card. Its first attack is actually kind of relevant for this deck. For a grass energy, you search your deck for an item card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So if your Combee is unfortunate enough to be left in the active spot going into your opponent's next turn, you at least do have an attack that you can use to grab maybe a level ball to find your next Pokemon, or maybe one of those important sweet honey item cards that we're going to be looking at that are very important for this deck's damage output. But of course, we would definitely prefer not to attack with Combee. We would much rather lean on its evolution. That's going to be Vespiquen, new stage 1 Pokemon in Astral Radiance, and we're looking at, for this first attack, for just a single grass energy, you reveal any number of sweet honey item cards in your hand, and this attack is going to do 60 for each one that you reveal in this way. So if we do manage to get all 4 of those into our hand, that's going to be 240 turn after turn for just a single grass energy. That's knocking out most basic Pokemon V, and with a couple of damage modifiers, we actually have a few ways at reaching that magic 280 number to even one-shot pretty much any V-Star that's in our way. This is going to be our only attacker, so the rest of our Pokemon are going to be here to sort of help facilitate this whole strategy. And the engine we have decided to pair with Vespiquen is going to be that Inteleon engine. So of course, up first we have 4 copies of Sobble, and Keep Calling, actually a really solid attack for this deck. We can search out 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon, put them on our bench, so of course not only can this grab a Sobble, but we also do have another Rapid Strike Pokemon that we can search out with this thing too. Up next from there, we have 4 copies of Drizzile, definitely going to be one of the main consistency boosting Pokemon of the deck. We have that Shady Dealings ability. Whenever we evolve into this guy, we can search our deck for any trainer card and put it into our hand. So of course, this is going to grab our supporters, our level balls, all that good stuff, but also of course we can grab that sweet honey item card to deal more damage with our Vespiquen. Likewise, we also have 2 of the Shady Dealings Inteleon as well, same ability as Drizzile, but of course we can grab 2 trainer cards instead of 1. And then from there, we also have 1 copy of the Quick Shooting Inteleon to fix our math a little bit, because right now with a Choice Bell, our Vespiquen caps out at 270 damage, which is a pretty respectable amount of damage. We are getting more and more Pokemon V-Star that are within that sort of one-hit KO range, but we are going to need something like an Inteleon if we do want to reach those Pokemon like Arceus and Palkia that have 280 HP. But as I mentioned earlier, we do have another Rapid Strike Pokemon in the deck, and that is going to be a 1/1 line of the Rapid Strike Milotic. And this is going to be a really important card for the deck because of this ability. As long as this Pokemon is in play, whenever your opponent plays a supporter card that affects your hand, you prevent any effects of that. Cards like Marnie and Judge are going to be a huge issue for a deck like this, because every time you start to finally pile up enough of those sweet honey cards in your hand, they're just going to get rid of them from your hand with those disruptive supporter cards. And then just to round out our list, we have a copy of Manaphy just to protect our bench Pokemon from those sniping attacks on things like Jolteon VMAX and Rapid Strike Urshifu. Heading on over to our trainer cards, we have 3 copies of Cynthia's Ambition. This is definitely going to be our primary supporter of choice in the deck. We draw cards until we have 5 in hand, but if our opponent took a KO on their last turn, we draw until we have 8. One of the big issues with Vespiquen is the fact that you can't really make good use of cards like Research and Marnie, just because you are always trying to keep those honey cards in your hand and you never want to lose them. So instead, we have to rely more on effects that just expand our hand size, and Cynthia's Ambition is by far and away, I think, the best option for a deck like this. Up next from there, we have 1 copy of Avery. This is going to be another one of these like straight draw options that we have in the format. We just draw 3 cards, but the upside to this one is that it does force our opponent to discard bench Pokemon until they only have 3. Sometimes if your hand is a little bit clunky and you can't get really good value out of Cynthia, Avery can sometimes be a better supporter to lean on. And of course, if you time Avery right, you can really punish your opponent and discard some important Pokemon from their bench. Another pretty important supporter for the deck is going to be 1 copy of Peonia. we get to put up to 3 prize cards into our hand. Then for each prize card that we took in this way, we put a card back into our prize cards as well. And as you expect, this card is really important to ensure that we don't prize those sweet honey item cards, because for each one that we prize, we're limiting ourselves by 60 damage. And we're not having that. We want to make sure we can always hit for the maximum amount of damage with our Vespiquens. And we also have a copy of Raihan in the deck as well. So of course, this only activates whenever your opponent has previously taken a KO, but we get to accelerate an energy from discard to one of our Pokemon and search our deck for any card. So sometimes in the mid game, if we already have our sweet honey cards in hand, or at least enough of them to do the necessary amount of damage for turn, sometimes just playing Raihan can be better at guaranteeing your energy attachment instead of banking off something like Cynthia to hit an energy. Or this can sometimes even grab you maybe that last honey card that you need to take a KO for turn, and again making Raihan a little bit more reliable than Cynthia's on certain turns of the game. And the only other supporter card we're playing is just going to be one copy of Boss's Orders, just to choose what we want to attack into. Definitely not a very high boss count, but sometimes it feels like this deck functions like Malamar, where it feels like you can rarely take a turn off of playing a draw supporter, but we definitely still want at least one in the deck, especially since we can always search this thing out at any point with our Inteleon pieces. Going on to our stadium cards, we just have 2 copies of Turffield. Once during a player's turn, they can search their deck for an evolution grass Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into their hand. Just chaining all of these evolutions every single turn is going to be one of the big issues the deck faces, and I think we would just prefer to lean more heavily on consistency cards instead of more defensive cards, maybe like Path to the Peak or Temple of Sinnoh. Up next from there though, we have 4 copies of the Sweet Honey card I keep referring to throughout this deck profile. The card on its own, not too impressive though. You choose one of your Pokemon and flip a coin until you get tails, and you heal 40 for every heads that you flip. So again, not too great for this deck, especially since we're not trying to tank with Vespiquen, but there are like certain weird situations, like if your opponent has done multiple quick shootings to some of your Pokemon and are threatening an additional KO on the next turn. Sometimes you can afford to burn one of these just to maybe heal a little bit, but overall guys, you never really want to play this card. But getting into some of our Pokemon search options, we definitely have a good bit in the deck. We of course have 4 copies of Quick Ball to find our basic Pokemon at the cost of discarding a card. And we also have 4 copies of Level Ball in the deck as well to search out this Pokemon with under 90 HP. So again, all of our basics, but also we can grab those Drizziles to grab other important trainer cards that we might need in a turn. And for our last Pokemon search card, we have 3 copies of Evolution Incense just to search out evolution Pokemon out of our deck. Up next from there, we have a copy of Energy Search in the deck just to search basic energy out of our deck. We are playing that Inteleon evolution line, so we can't search out energies, but we can search out Energy Search, which in turn can grab us energy if we need one. We have 2 copies of Choice Belt just to increase our damage output a little bit, and Choice Belt is pretty important against certain Pokemon, most notably Pokemon VSTAR, since with a Choice Belt and all 4 of our Sweet Honey cards, that bumps us up to 270, which knocks out pretty much any VSTAR other than the Gen 4 legendaries. But as I mentioned earlier, we're just a quick shooting away from being able to accomplish that too. From there, we also have 2 copies of Scoop Up Net in the deck. This is going to be really our only like switching sort of method that we have, but of course we put one of our Pokemon that's not a V or GX into our hand. So as I mentioned, we can use this kind of as a switching method, but a little bit more importantly, this will allow us to reuse our Inteleon evolution line throughout the course of a game. And speaking of reusing things, we have 2 copies of Ordinary Rod just to get back 2 Pokemon and or 2 basic energy. But we also have 1 copy of Rescue Carrier in the deck as well, which allows us to get 2 Pokemon with 90 HP or less and put them back into our hand. I originally just had the 1 carrier, 1 rod split, but I found that if I ever prized even just one of those, sometimes it can be really awkward to close out a game. And also by playing the 2nd copy of Rod, that does make Quick Ball a little bit more of a flexible card, because previously before the 2nd Rod, I was also being very conservative with what I discarded with Quick Ball. I felt like I didn't really have too many options I could actually afford to get rid of. But now you can safely sometimes toss away Pokemon and or energy and be able to get them back at some point. And then to round out our deck list, just 6 copies of Grass Energy in total. Not a high count, but between Energy Search, that gives us a 7th out to an energy. But then we have the 2 Ordinary Rods and the copy of Raihan, so we have plenty of ways at just recycling these throughout the course of a game. So that's going to be where I'm at right now with the Vespiquen deck. The early game is definitely going to be the most stressful part of this deck, since you don't yet have those Sweet Honey item cards built up in your hand. And a lot of times it almost kind of feels like you're waiting for your opponent to take the first KO, that way you can properly activate Cynthia and not draw just until 5. Inteleon definitely seemed like the most natural sort of partner here, but I wonder if there's even a world where we play something like Cincino, since that can just keep expanding our hand size. I don't know, but I'm definitely curious what you guys are thinking. I want you to sound off down below in the comment section. What do you guys think about this list today? Are there any things that you would change? Do you think this archetype just in general has any promise? I do my best to read all of the comments I get, so be sure to let me know your full thoughts. But that being said, if you did enjoy this look at this Vespiquen deck, remember to smack that like button. And if you want to take that support to the next level, you guys can also become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or pick up some merch at rarecandytcg.com. Links to those will be down below in the description. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.